Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Paul from Refocus Coaching, and I help dads to improve their energy and focus, improve their health, and lose excess body fat in a sustainable way. And I like to hold these talks with dads in business to talk to them about how they manage their energy and their health. And today I'm joined by John Stubbs. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm John. As Paul just said, I run an outsourcing company called Outsourcing. Previously, I've been in the recruitment sector for about 16 years, and as I've recently set up on my own and identified gaps in the market where I can combine recruitment and virtual assistants together, and a lot more consulting in the business rather than just being a typical recruiter that puts a bum on a seat and gets an invoice dry at the end of the month. So I've tried to create something a little bit different that's going to increase my market and allow me to sell and speak to more customers and help more customers out, and also create a more cost-effective solution for companies as well that haven't got the budgets necessarily to go straight to recruitment agencies and pay 15-20%, which is typically what happens in that industry.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I might well need to call on your services at some point, hopefully in the next year.
Brilliant. Anytime.
Cool. So these sort of chats are, like I said, to find out about, how you sort of manage yourself. So, it's obviously incredibly challenging to manage your your energy levels and your time management and, your sleep and your nutrition and your exercise and your health and all that stuff anyway. And then when you throw in being the parent into the mix and then running a business, growing a business, launching a business, all those things.
Yeah.
So are there any kind of areas that, for you that over the last few years that you've maybe taken a hit or you've struggled with and then you've had to go and work on to kind of improve in those areas?
I think if you ask any parent, not just dads, I think they do take a hit on their own health, well-being, mental health, physical ability, and when you have children, because obviously everything changes. Having children's an amazing thing. However, your world does turn upside down. You're suddenly caring for this child that needs full care and attention, and as they go through the years, their need becomes slightly less, but more less dependent, but more the needs adapt and the needs change. So suddenly then you find that you're having to adapt even more and you're having to almost be ahead of the curve a little bit. So for me, it was just about adapting. And I think we had that conversation when we spoke a couple of months ago. So for me, I had to kind of look at my schedule, look at my time and go, right, I want to still be able to train 5-6 times a week. I want to still be able to have a little bit of time for myself. So how do I do that? And what I came up with is getting up earlier. So I now get up at 5 o'clock every morning instead of 6-7 o'clock in the morning. And that just gave me that extra hour or two in the morning where I can train, I can read, I can do an ice bath, I can do a little bit of work if I need to. I can basically, the way I think of it is I get my day started before my son gets up. And that way I've not impacted him in any way. I'm not taking anything away from him. And I'm actually getting a lot more done. So that's one of the changes that I made. And it's had a massively positive impact. So yeah, I'm really happy with that change.
Yeah, no, it's really important, I think. And like you said, your world turns upside down when those little bundles appear.
Yeah.
And as you've alluded to, as they grow and as they age, your level of responsibility and input changes. It doesn't really get easier; it just changes in
like
what
my
the
Saturdays now are football. We get up on a Saturday morning now, and I am the football team taxi. I'm taking him to football. I'm watching him play, and then I'm bringing him back and helping him recover and all that, So that's my Saturday mornings now. He's not dependent on that, but it's my routine has changed. So, gone are the days of me being able to train on a Saturday morning. They're well gone because we're playing at a different pitch every week in a different location every week. So it definitely adapts as they get older.
Yeah, and that priority shift. It's like we said, it's sort of constantly fluxing, isn't it? So how, when you adapted to your morning routine and getting up earlier, what was that like? How did you go about doing that?
Literally like taking off a plaster, ripping it off fast, literally like set the alarm. I actually set the alarm for 5:05, which I think is almost like mental thing to say. It's not quite 5 o'clock, it's just after. So I set my alarm for 5:05. Whether or not that works or not, but for me it works because it doesn't quite feel like 5 o'clock, but it feels like I'm moving. So 5:05, and I can't sit in bed and snooze or mope around or anything like that. It's literally straight up and down the stairs. Coffee helps, I'm not going to lie. You know, a pot of coffee on the side definitely does help. But yeah, it was more about just get up and get it done. I'm quite a proactive person anyway. So when I put my mind to something, I do usually go all in. So that was just something that I definitely had to go all in on. And I just figured it was one of those things that I can be consistent and constant in that approach. It's not going to affect him. He doesn't get up till 6:15. You know, his alarm goes off at 6:15. So he knows at 6:15 he's allowed to get out of bed and go about the house. So I've almost got like that hour and 10 minutes to make sure I can get something done. So it's like I say, gym, ice bath, coffee, whatever it might be. I'm up and about and I've got that time. And then if I don't use that time effectively or productively, then that's on me. Because, you know, he's not impacted that in any way. So that is on me. So the ownership and the accountability does firmly sit with me. So if there's any days where I don't get up at 5:05, then I'm going to miss out. So I made it a real action point. No, you will get up at 5:05. You will go straight down the stairs and you will get on with your day. And touch wood, it's working.
Yeah, that's the big mindset shift because, you know, you're right. You sort of realize that you can excuse yourself every day if you wanted to, but it's not going to get you anywhere.
So easy to press snooze. It's so easy to say, I'll do it tomorrow. It's so easy to say, I'll start next week. But if you just do it there and then, you're not going to do it tomorrow. You're not going to do it next week. And then another excuse comes in the way. And then, you know, I hear people say, oh, I can't do that because my little one gets up at this time or does this. I'm like, well, you can. You just need to shift the way you do things. So if it means you getting up an hour earlier, guess what? You've just created an extra 7 hours a week that you didn't have before. And you don't really miss out at the end of the day because if you still get to bed for 10 o'clock, you're still getting 7 hours sleep. You know, so if you can get 7 hours decent sleep, then you're still recovering enough as well. So, you know, you don't need to be making excuses, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Is that, you know, while you were saying that, I was thinking it's about creating a regular habit and a routine as well. I think our bodies work best when there is some sort of cycle and routine, and that's. You know, that's because of hormonal balances as well. Your body likes to have routine. If you think about the circadian rhythm of sleep, a lot of that's denoted by hormone changes. And actually, I think your wake cycle is the same. So if you can keep doing that and get some consistency and do it for a few weeks, it just sort of becomes a normal thing. And then your body's used to it, your mind's used to it, and then you've built a bit of a habit. So, you know, hard at the start, but worth the effort. It sort of pays you back.
Yeah, definitely. I always think there's less to go wrong at 5 o'clock in the morning than there is at 5 o'clock in the evening. Because, you know, so if you're up early and you're getting stuff done early doors, guess what? You've done most of what you wanted to achieve throughout the day. So then when you do get to sort of 4, 5, 6 o'clock, when these outside variables and factors come into play, actually they don't matter as much because you've accomplished more of what you wanted to do during the day. So again, like you said before, it is a mindset thing, you know, and it is just getting up and doing it. But for me, it definitely works.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, like you said, later in the day, you're at the behest of the world, aren't you? So
you go to pick up,
do something when the world's asleep.
Yeah, you pick up a child from school. Oh, have you got 5 minutes? Oh, right, okay. So there's another 5 minutes that you stop and chatting to the teacher, and then you're getting caught in traffic, or then something happens, or someone rings you and says, "Well, can you do that?" You know, all these factors come in. And then I don't know if you're like myself, but you get home, oh, can we play football now? Right, let's play football before we have dinner. And then I'm still trying to work. And, you know, so it's, so if I can get the majority of what I need to do early on in the day, then I've set myself up for the day. And it overspills into the weekends as well. I'm still like that of a weekend. I'll still get up at 5 o'clock of a weekend, and I'll still try and get as much done early doors of a weekend as I can. So then come the afternoons, it's a bit more of a relaxed pace, slowing down, more time together. You know, it's great when Liverpool's playing on a Sunday afternoon because it's like, right, roast dinner, Liverpool, chill out, you know, and it's because you've done everything you need to do. You're up, you've done it. So
yeah, I like it. You know, the mindset you're creating for yourself is not just for your personal physical routine, but your that spills into your day and your work as well, then, doesn't it? You probably have the same approach with your work as like, right, let's get the big stuff done, let's get the important stuff done, then you can firefight and, you know, and adapt as you go.
Exactly.
I love your point as well about, you know, if you get up at 5 or 5 past, which is a great strategy, you're sort of tricking yourself that it's not too early. but you get that extra hour. It's 7 hours over a week.
Yeah, 7
which is
hours.
loads.
Yeah, loads of time. You know, if you're productive and, you know, a bit like me with a to-do list or whatever, you can get so much done in 7 hours. It's unreal. It's when people break it down and make the excuse and say, oh, you know, I've only got, you know, an extra half an hour here, or what's the point? Well, add it up over the week. It's the same with your calories in your diet and things like that. If you add it up over a week rather than just on a daily basis, it makes a massive impact. And then that day, that week becomes a month, becomes a year, you know, and huge changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll just put Chris's message up on the screen. He's got 6. Wow.
Crazy. I know Chris as well, so good luck, mate.
we need to get Chris on for a
chat.
Needs to be on this. How the hell he does that.
Yeah, he'll teach us both a thing or two, I think, on this.
Yeah, that's next level. So one thing that I wanted to kind of ask then is, obviously you set that morning routine. So what's the other end look like? Because you said about going to bed. Have you got a nice kind of routine and cycle at the other end?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not regimented, but I try and get my little boy to bed between 7:30 and 8, you know, so that, and it always overlaps with I'm hungry or an extra story or something like that. Yeah. But usually by 8:30, I'm able to come back down and just kind of wind down at the end of the evening and maybe watch something, you know, on TV, and then about 9:30, 9:45, I always think, right, let's try and get up to bed, and I try and get to sleep for about 10. So I try and get 7 hours there or thereabouts. It doesn't impact me too much more, you know. I think, how productive can you be at that time of night? And the majority of people that I know stay up beyond that. They're just watching stuff on TV. And I'm like, well, I don't need to do that. I'd rather have the extra hour going to bed and then getting up the next day and being really productive on my day and getting other things done. And if there's something I really want to watch, I'll catch up with it at the weekend, or I'll catch up with it when I've got more time, or, you know, and that's, I don't need to stay up particularly late of an evening. So yeah, and there are some nights that'll be a bit later. Like tonight, I'm not due to finish till about 9 o'clock tonight, because I've got a couple of things on after work that I need to do. So tonight might be a little bit later, but there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Is, you know, something that when I work with a client one-on-one is we'll look for some sort of level of consistency, and I try and say, look, let's aim for sort of 75%, 80% of the time being optimal. And then you've got that spillover room and that space there. And I think that works with all of this. It works with your nutrition, It works with your sleep, it works with your gym, you know, all that sort of stuff. And life doesn't let you get away with 100% anyway, does it? It's just not going to happen. So,
exactly. Nothing's ever 100%.
No, and if you expect it to be, you're only going to be disappointed, and then you start on this whole downward spiral then, because you didn't quite get to the 100%. So I think you know, you've got to be realistic with it, and sort of build in that little bit of a safety net, which is really good. And you said you obviously you hit the gym as well. So what sort of stuff are you doing there? Are you lifting? Are you running?
Predominantly lift, but I've just started running recently as well. So I'm trying to run 2-3 times a week as well. And a mate of mine's trying to get me into high rocks, but I'm not quite there yet. So I think my bones and my joints are a little bit too old to maybe contemplate that. But I know I'll give it at some point to have a go. But yeah, I've been training since I was a kid, you know. So I'm probably, you know, consistently since 16, 17. And it's adapted as I got older, and it's obviously adapted since I've had Leo as well. You know, that's massively, you know, I used to train 6-7 days a week, sometimes twice a day because I could. But obviously now it can't be like that. You know, it has to, you know, 5 days max, extra rest day. Sessions are usually an hour and 20, no more than that. You know, I've had to adapt and change a little bit as well. I had an old mentality that I couldn't go to the gym unless I ate first. But now I go to the gym at like 5:30 or 5:20 in the morning, something like that. It's like, well, I haven't really got time to eat before I go. So, and again, that's just a mindset thing. You know, you get enough nutrition throughout your day and your week that you don't need to eat before you go necessarily. And I lift heavy still, you know, and my numbers haven't changed or anything like that. It's just, again, a mindset of, no, I'm going to get through this session, I'm going to train, and then I'm going to eat and recover afterwards. It's no different.
Yeah. I mean, there's a point worth making here as well, in that, you know, you've trained for a while, for a long time, for most of your adult life, and you, like you said, your numbers don't change, and that's really important to note, because when someone is untrained or lets themselves get untrained and out of shape, it's really hard to get back to where you were. But actually, if you keep yourself ticking over, you don't have to go hard all the time. But when you do, it's there still.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you keep maintaining it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really important, you know, especially as us guys, we kind of get into our 40s and 50s, you know, our body's actually trying to go on the decline. And if we sit still and stop doing that, then we will lose bone density, we will lose muscle mass, you know, we'll lose a little bit of that energy and the hormonal sort of push as well. So I think it's really important to keep lifting heavy stuff relative to you, heavy for you. You know, you don't have to go and set the same number as somebody else in the gym. But it's really, really important. And, you know, in the long term as well, it helps this thing as well. It's really positive.
I think I did a couple of years ago as well. I introduced a logbook into my training, which I hadn't done before. So probably about 2.5 years ago, I introduced a logbook, and that is, again, game changer. You know, it keeps me accountable, keeps me on track, actually stops me having to think too much, to be honest, because I can see my previous sessions, I can see where I'm up to. I train between 2 gyms as well, so I find it really helps, you know, that using different gyms and different equipments, all the weights are slightly different in weight. You know, they might say 25 on it, but they're all slightly different, and each machine's slightly heavier. So again, I think that just really, really helps, and also keeps you accountable as well, and really helps. So like you just said then, you know, it's about, you know, still trying to push on and not let decline take over. And I think for me, that definitely helped as well. And it helps me progress. And even this week, I've increased my rep ranges just because I thought I'm going to try just adding an extra 2 reps into every set and just seeing what happens. You know, the weight's staying the same, but I'm increasing set ranges and reps by an extra couple. See what happens. You know, give it 4-6 weeks and then tweak it again. You know, so. No,
it's really good. And that's the thing, like progress in the gym and with the training doesn't have to just be put more weight on the bar. It can be change the tempo, change the number of reps, change, you know, the angle that you're moving at, change the piece of equipment or the gym and refresh a little bit, and makes a big difference. And then you'll go back to, you know, the thing you did 6 weeks ago and you'll smash it. Just from making small changes. So
definitely.
Yeah, no, that's really, really important. Yeah, sounds like you've, by and large, got your ship in order, which is really good.
Yeah, in some areas, I'd say yes.
Yeah, well, we're never always going to have it sorted out.
Never 100%, is it?
So, I've got a kind of, you know, I work with my clients on sort of 4 main pillars of health, which we've sort of touched on. So, nutrition, your movement, your recovery or your sleep, and then your mindset. So, you know, we've sort of touched on a few things. So what we haven't looked at is your nutrition sort of habits. So have you got a particular dietary way of living? Are you like a vegan, vegetarian or anything? Or have you got any specific...
I'm on a seafood diet. I seafood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love food. Yeah, I'm not restrictive in any way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. And that's nice. And that's healthy, isn't it? Because, you know, one of the things I find, especially when someone's trying to lose weight, for example, is that they kind of remove the joy from eating a little bit because they go so restrictive. They're like, well, I can't have these bad things, which are all delicious. Can't have those because they're bad. And then there's no joy left in their eating.
Exactly. And this is the thing. I mean, so there's a couple of things. So I used to track my macros and all that sort of thing. And again, a couple of years ago, it got to the point, probably when I introduced the logbook. Why am I tracking everything to the gram and to the exact measurement? I don't need to. I'm not getting on stage or anything like that. What I need to be doing is listening to my body a little bit more. And it's also when you hear health professionals say, don't focus too much on what it says on the scales, focus more on what it looks like in the mirror. So I sort of adapted that with my food as well. I'm thinking, well, if my energy levels are good and I'm feeling good and, you know, I'm not too flabby here and there, then actually my diet's pretty good. And as long as I'm getting a good overall balance, then I think I'm okay. I do eat predominantly clean anyway, but I'll never, you know, not have a little drink or a little treat or something like that. But again, I think my mindset shifted when Leo came along, because obviously I want to encourage good eating habits with him as well, because again, kids replicate what you do. So, you know, at the minute he's itching to get into the gym with me. You know, he goes to my mate's gym with me from time to time, and he's really into his sport and at the minute, but he really wants to be active, but he really understands the nutritional side as well. You know, he knows he needs to eat his protein because he wants to get as big as Tom Stoltman, and he knows that he has to get his carbs in because he needs his energy for football and things like that, you know. So, you know, he loves a salmon on the barbecue because he knows it's healthy fats and he knows that's a really nice way of cooking it. So, yeah, I need to make sure that he's getting that right basis at his age as well. And then as he gets older, he can make his own choices about what he wants to do and how he wants to eat and train and all that sort of stuff. But I want to give him that really good basic level of understanding now. And that's good for that. That's good for that. And, you know, he can't have snacks unless he eats all his dinner. And we've got a thing that if he doesn't eat all his dinner, which is quite rare because he's like me, he eats anything, then he has to save it until later. So then once he's had his shower and he comes back down for chill time, if he hasn't finished his dinner, he has to finish that first before he's allowed a snack. So I've instilled that in him really early, and it works. You know, there'll be some days where he just genuinely goes, do you know what? I don't want to eat all that pasta. Okay, fine. What happens? It goes on the side. So it goes into a smaller bowl on the side, and he knows if he wants a snack later, he has to eat that first. And he does. So, you know, again, I'm trying to encourage that healthy habit. And we always serve sort of family style. So we put the food in the middle or the food on the breakfast bar and then say, right, how hungry are you? Small, medium or big? Give him that choice to tell you whether he's small, medium or big. Don't just load of food in his plate as well. So if he says small, I always think, right, okay, you probably just want snacks. So I'll edge on more medium. But usually he says medium to large. Great. You know, I know what size to give him. And then I'm expecting him to finish that meal. If he doesn't, then he has to finish it before he goes to bed if he wants a snack.
Yeah. That's a great tip, that is. I like that a lot. So there's a few parents that I follow online that are nutritionists as well, and they give tips to help because kids can be quite picky as well, especially when you're trying to introduce healthy foods to them, or certainly lots of veggies. You know, they're usually a bit like, oh, I don't want that thing. So I love that where you sort of say, you know, how hungry are you, and get a bit of a gauge from them. Because it kind of gets it gets commitment from them as well, doesn't it? To kind of actually, once they've said, well, I'm hungry, and then you put something on the plate, they're going to crack on, you know?
I just think you empower them a little bit to give you that response and interact with them, but also you're kind of holding them accountable. I know they're quite young at this age to know accountability and all that, but you are teaching those basics of accountability as well. Well, no, you said you were hungry, so eat what's on your plate, you know, and I don't waste food at all. You know, I don't believe in wasting food. You know, times are tough for everyone. You know, everything's expensive, so we don't waste food in this house at all. So again, I'm a believer in that. If you're asked for it and you put it on your plate, especially if it is family style and he's helping himself, remember what you put on your plate, you have to eat. And I think it instills good disciplines moving forward in everything then.
Yeah, and I like as well, I do a similar thing. So if there's anything left after and they say they're full, then fair enough, you're full. But we're going to put what you've got left on your plate into a bowl and keep that. So later on, when invariably 20 minutes before bedtime routine, they say, I'm hungry. You say, well, here you go. Finish this.
You can have pasta with your side of Oreo, you know.
Usually they're not hungry. They go, oh, no, I don't want
that. Exactly.
And I like going back to your point earlier as well, you know, they're watching and they're learning from you. So how you talk about food and how you talk about it as a fuel and as a way of growing a strong body and completing your sport well and, you know, achieving all the things you want, and also how you just eat and interact with food yourself, where, you know, you might be in a really bad frame of mind and you go and do something that you would deem, you know, unhealthy or bad, and they're watching, you know, and so they'll kind of pick up on those cues and they'll know that, oh, well, when I'm a bit sad or when I'm a bit angry, I can go and have some chocolate or some biscuits. And I think we're sort of setting the tone a little bit.
100%. 100%. But they do watch and take everything in. You know, the joke is when we go on holiday, I have like 4 breakfasts because I'm like, well, I'm going to Jerry all over this buffet, you know? And, you know, he'll say, right, how many breakfasts are you having today? Or do you want to go up first, Dad? Because you're going to have 4 plates and we're going to have 2. Do you know what I mean? So he knows straight away that, you know, and they do massively eyes and ears all the time. And that's quite hard to learn, especially when you're driving in the car and as they get older. And you have to be a bit careful with what you say to other drivers in the car and things like that, because they literally do pick up everything.
They do. Yeah, absolutely. I really like that. And I like the association as well, you know, because obviously your lad's into his sport, obviously, and he sees you're training, but you're fueling yourself well. So that he's seeing that association as well, which is really important. And you're obviously having that conversation as well about the importance of fueling for football so that you can perform and enjoy it more. And, you it's a really great start that he's getting off to.
And I think it's important to point out to them as well when they're watching things. Like, we love watching World's Strongest Man at Christmas. And, to get as big as Tom Stoltman, you have to eat a lot, and you have to eat a lot of protein and etc. So, he's quite inquisitive. So he'll ask, and we'll sort of highlight those things when we're watching stuff inadvertently, and not, not ramming it down his throat, but just drop them into conversation so he's aware of it as well. And then, you'll be sitting at the table and he'll come out and say, I need to eat all this chicken because I want to be as big as Tom Stoltman. And it's like, okay, so it's ingraining in it, the message is landing. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And I like, I've done a few bits of work and workshops with some school kids over the past few months. And I like to ask them who their heroes are, their sporting heroes, their dance heroes, they're even just TV people they like. And it's to say to them, well, they eat a balanced diet. They eat their veggies, they eat a balanced diet of whole foods. They limit, the bad stuff, because that's what fuels them and gets them to where they are. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't matter who it is. It's just, if you look up to them, you've got an opportunity to kind of use them as a way of
if they can relate to someone or something, then it's so much easier to try and get that message across, because you can't expect your children to always relate to you. So again, there's always outside factors, and you have to use what you've got at your disposal there. But that's a good way of doing it, definitely.
And my daughter's 10, and she's just getting to that stage now where I'm not super cool anymore. And she's now more interested in listening to others, perhaps. We're right on the cusp, I think. So again, it's more important again then, isn't it? So it's to kind of engage with the people they're interested in and the people they're looking up to, and have conversations around what they do to get to where they are. Because like you said, it's not necessarily they're just going to look at you for guidance anymore. They're going to be looking at external influences.
So what's your plan then to tackle that a bit more moving forward?
Well, I mean, we have good conversations with her at the moment anyway, obviously. And we're keeping her active. She loves swimming. She's just started jiu-jitsu a couple of months ago and she loves it. So we'll talk to her on the basis of building a strong body for the future, so that you're able to do whatever you want in the future. So we've always gone down that kind of route. And so it's sort of, she's starting to get role models now in those areas. So we start to look at, swim coaches who are doing their online stuff, and we watch their content together and kind of get tips from them, and then we have discussions around what they're talking about at home as well. So I think, who knows what the right way to go about it is? We're all having a stab at a guess at it.
It just got me thinking and sort of flash forward and thinking there's going to come a point where he's the same, where he's like, Dad, So I think for me, I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing now, making sure that I build those fundamentals. I keep training, I keep healthy, because I joke that, when I'm 60, 70, 80, I still want to be quite active. Like when I see the 60, 70, and 80-year-olds in my gym, I'm like, good on you, fist pump. They're spot on. They're still getting out 3, 4, 5 times a week. I want to be that kind of person as well. So I think my plan with that is just going to carry on doing what I'm doing and hope that he looks across at some point and goes, actually, Dad's still going. Dad's still, still training, still doing this. And actually, I've got my own role models and I'm going my own direction, but actually there's a bit of him that I can still take along with me. That's the hope.
Actions speak louder than words, for sure, don't they?
Exactly.
And we can have conversations with them, but we can't hear their thoughts. We're not in there all the time. So I think you have to still be, doing the best you can for yourself, showing that outwardly. And, there's going to be bad times and trip ups, and, that's life, isn't it? But showing how you get up from that.
I've got a tip for that, though. So I listened to a podcast probably about a year ago about trying to understand what your child thinks. So now I've introduced question time just before story time of a night time. So basically, we get the option to ask and answer maybe 2, 3, 4 questions just before we go to bed. So we get on the beanbag, we have a little cuddle, and we ask each other questions. And the idea or the premise behind it was you ask your child a question and then you ask them why. So once they're given the answer, you ask them why, just to delve a little bit deeper into their thought process and why they've come up with that answer. And I tell you, it works. It's really insightful. It's really, really good. Some of the things, you start off with the very basics. What's your favorite color? Oh, great. Why is that your favorite color? And some of the answers they give you do stop and think, wow, okay. And it's really, really helped mine and his relationship over the last year or so, and just trying to understand a little bit more about how they think. But like you say, they'll be developing and changing so fast. It changes so often. But that's something that I've introduced every night now, that just more so because I'm curious to how he's thinking and what he's doing, because they don't always tell you. So it's quite a good thing to do.
That's a great tip. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I tend to find with mine that she asks me really complicated questions while she's lying in bed and we're about to turn the light off. And it's like my brain can barely cope with that.
So that's why I introduced it before story time, because I thought otherwise I'm going to get into that rut where it's just before bed. It's another excuse not to go to sleep. So I thought if we introduce it just before story time, and then depending on what time it is dependent on how many questions we cap. So sometimes it might be 1 or 2 questions because he's running close, or sometimes it might be 3 or 4 or 5, and then sometimes you think, right, I've got to think of 5 questions here, and it's it's one of them.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. I like that. That's a really good one. So I was going to ask you, have you got any kind of daily non-negotiables in regards to your kind of health and your mindset that you always kind of deliver on?
For me personally, it's the getting up at 5:05. That is my non-negotiable. Get up, even if I'm not feeling great, get up and start my day. Because if I don't, I'm just giving myself an excuse later on in the day to either not get things done or have something else getting in the way, or a variable or something like that. So for me, it's making sure I get up and I get on with my day. And when I'm able to, when I'm fit and healthy, not injured and all that sort of stuff, it's training. I have to train some way, shape or form. For me, it's not just a physical thing. It's great for my mind and clarity and all the rest of it. So I've got to train somehow where I can. That for me is definitely a non-negotiable. And that's hard as a parent. I think I said that to you before when we spoke. It's hard because you do end up having a bit of dad guilt sometimes, where you think, oh, I'm in the gym for an hour and, I could be at home. But you absolutely have to give yourself that little bit of time as well, because if you don't, how can you ever be the best version of yourself for your children? If you just let everything drop and go by the wayside and, look down in a year or 2 and go, wow, where did that belly come from? Or, suddenly I'm going to the doctors to get a blood test or cholesterol test and things like that. It's like, well, how are you going to be a great role model? How are you going to be there when your children need you if you're not able to look after yourself? So I think in your younger days you can abuse yourself a little bit in terms of your bounce. You can train as much as you want. You don't have to recover as much. But as you get older, you've really got to focus on the whole lot and treat everything with equal priority. And just try and be the best you can. So as selfish as it sounds, you do have to have that little non-negotiable, even if it's just one thing. I think you do have to have that non-negotiable. And again, I'm not too hard on myself. I will always aim for daily, but if I achieve the majority of it over the week, then that's a win as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good. I just popped that up on the screen. I think Nathan's referring to your tip about the questions.
Honestly, Nathan, try it, mate. It definitely works. It's really, really insightful, and it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Fab. So look, I've loved this conversation. We've sailed over 30 minutes now, 33 minutes. Is there anything you kind of wanted to raise or ask or talk about, still on the subject of kind of, energy levels and health, or are you happy that you kind of covered everything that you?
Yeah, I think I'm happy that I've covered everything, to be honest with you. I mean, if there's anything you think I've missed or covered, but I think I just alluded to then, I think as you get older, you've really got to prioritize everything, nutrition, training, movement, recovery. It's all massively important. You can train as hard as you want in the gym, but if your nutrition's out or your recovery's out, then you're not gonna achieve what you need to achieve. But no, I think it's been really good. We've had a really well-rounded conversation, and we have.
And you've brought some amazing tips to the table as well, which is really good. And, like I said at the start, I always work on those 4 pillars. I kind of look at them like the legs of a table. And if one's off, you're going to be all right. But if 2 are off or 3 are off, then you start to get into trouble. So I think, to your point there about you've got to kind of work on all of those elements really to kind of lift yourself. And they're all linked. So if you're training well and you're eating well, you're going to sleep well. And then when the stress is high, might impact your sleep. But if you keep the others going, that's going to help with those. So there's a trade-off between them all, and they all sort of link together, I think. And if one's down, let's say you get injured and you can't train, as long as you've got those other three still in check, then you're going to be okay. And when you're able to come back and get back to training again, then you're going to be all right again.
Yeah.
So I really like to work on those four aspects really. And then in terms of mindset, it's kind of, for me, it's, when I talk about mindset, it's about your organization levels, your planning, your routines, and then your motivation and your discipline to just do it as well. So that 5 a.m. alarm, you could, like you said, quite easily hit snooze or turn it off, but you don't. As soon as it goes, you swing out of bed, your feet are on the floor, off you go. And I think that's a real big part of it. That's the first win of the day. Yeah. And the rest of the day, you're like, I've already won. So let's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Fab. It's been an amazing chat. I could chat to you all day, so we might have to get you back on for a future one. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's going on at the moment? What are you doing? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, just reach out with me on LinkedIn. Website will be going live in a couple of weeks. But yeah, LinkedIn for now. I'm working on all sorts, to be honest, at the minute. I'm spinning a few plates, but the most recent thing, very, very quickly, is a mate of mine's opening an additional gym to the one he's got. So I'm talking to him at the moment about how to scale up his business, what processes he needs to put in place to replicate at multiple sites. Looking at it mainly from a people perspective, because he's got the gym side sorted, but in terms of scaling up his people and his processes, I'm looking at that very much from a people consultation perspective. So again, I can offer that for any businesses out there that want help and advice on, looking at processes and all that from a people perspective. But yeah, reach out on LinkedIn and let's have a chat.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Thanks very much. And for anyone who's obviously watching that's interested in finding out more about what I do, then you can hit me up on LinkedIn as well. This week, I'm currently running my free 5-day Dad's Wellness Reboot event. So we're on day 2 today. It's not too late to join, but you need to message me because I've closed the thing on my website. But if you message me on LinkedIn, I can slip you in the back door and you can catch up. And there's some great conversations and questions going on in there. And I give loads of resources and loads of information in there to help people for free. So it's a great opportunity to come and listen to me blab on a bit more and get some great tips. So awesome. Thanks again, John. It's been absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed that chat. And have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. And you.
Cheers.